The file on my desk had my last name on it. Not my name. My father's name. Mercer Industrial Supply. Gerald R. Mercer, sole proprietor. I'd been a forensic accountant for 6 years. I had audited insurance companies and real estate firms and family-owned businesses, where the books told one story and the bank statements told another. I had sat in conference rooms and found numbers that people believed were invisible. I had learned across 6 years and hundreds of cases that money always leaves a trail, that the structures people build to hide it are never as complete as they believe, that somewhere in the architecture of every fraud there is a door that opens if you know where to push. I had never expected the door to open into my own family. I stared at the name on the file for 43 seconds. I know it was 43 seconds because the conference room had a clock on the wall and I was counting. The way you count when your body needs something to do while your brain catches up to what your eyes are reading. Gerald R. Mercer. My uncle, my father's older brother, the man who had sat at our kitchen table 3 weeks after my father's funeral, my mother's hands folded in front of her, her eyes red, her whole body carrying the specific weight of someone who has just had the organizing principle of their life removed, and explained carefully that the financial situation was complicated, that military pensions don't transfer, that the savings weren't as substantial as she might have hoped, that she should be careful with money going forward, that he would help her manage what was there. He said all of this. He said it while a VA check for $3,200 cleared his account. The first of 138. I opened the file. I went to work. My name is Claire Mercer. I am 31 years old. I am a certified forensic accountant at Harlan & Associates in Columbus, Ohio. My father, Sergeant First Class David Allen Mercer, United States Army, died on November 14th, 2009. He was 47 years old. He had served 22 years. He had measured everything twice. He had tried in every way available to him to make sure we would be okay. His brother had been waiting for him to die. I did not know that for 11 years. Then a bank flagged an irregularity, and my supervisor handed me a file with my last name on it, and I found $1.1 million, every single dollar. I need to tell you about my father, not to make you grieve him, though you will, or at least I hope you will, because he deserved to be grieved by more people than knew him, but because what Gerald took was built on my father's name. His 22 years, his body, which he had given to a job that kept score in ways he minimized, and the VA documented. His specific, unglamorous, daily love for a family he had chosen to protect with the only tools available to him. Consistency, precision, and a survivor benefit plan he had paid into for 6 years because he understood that the cost of imprecision is always eventually paid. David Allen Mercer enlisted at 18. He did it without drama, without the specific performed patriotism that some people bring to the decision and that he found faintly embarrassing. He did it because he was 18 and from a small town in eastern Ohio, and the Army offered structure and purpose and a paycheck, and those 3 things seemed at 18 like everything. They turned out to be everything. He spent 22 years in the infantry and then in special operations. And then, as his body started accumulating the kind of damage that 22 years in those environments produces, in training and logistics, he was stationed in Germany, in South Korea, in Kuwait, in Afghanistan. He came home from 2 deployments with injuries he described when he described them in the minimizing language of men who measure damage on a functional scale. Can I still do the job? If yes, it doesn't count. The VA counted it. His disability rating reflected what his body had given and what it would carry for the rest of his life. He retired at 40. He moved us to Columbus. He coached Little League for 3 years, even though he had never played baseball, learning the rules from a book the same way he learned everything he decided to learn, completely without shortcuts. He built a deck on the back of our house over one summer, measuring every board twice, because he had learned in 22 years that the cost of imprecision is paid eventually, and he preferred to pay it up front. He read to me every night until I told him I was too old for it. And then he kept leaving books on my nightstand with specific pages folded down and never mentioned it. And I kept reading them, and we never discussed it directly. And it was the best conversation I ever had. He died on a Tuesday morning in November. Heart attack, fast. the way the VA doctor told us later that his particular cardiac history made likely. The specific efficiency of a body that has been pushed past its limits for 2 decades, finally presenting the bill. He was 47. I was 16. My mother was 43, and my uncle Gerald was 53, and he was at the house within hours, and he was the one who handled everything, and he was so helpful, and my mother was so grateful. I want to tell you about my mother before I tell you what happened to her. Carol Mercer was a registered nurse. She had worked at Franklin Medical Center since 1998, the year we moved to Columbus, first in general medicine and then in the cardiac unit, which has its own particular irony that I have spent a lot of time not dwelling on. She is a precise person, competent and organized, the kind of woman who keeps things running without making a production of the running. She is also, and this matters, a trusting person, not naive. There is a difference. Trusting means she extends belief to people who have demonstrated they deserve it and does not assume in advance that the demonstration was a performance. Gerald had demonstrated over 20 years of family life that he was reliable. He showed up. He helped with things. He was there. When my father died and Gerald stepped into the space left by his absence and began managing the estate paperwork and telling my mother what the financial situation looked like, she trusted him because he had earned it, because he was family, because she was 3 weeks out from burying her husband, and she could not have read a financial document carefully in that period if her life had depended on it, and he knew that, and he had timed his first move accordingly. Yeah! The dining room table conversation happened on a Saturday, December 5th, 2009, 3 weeks and 2 days after my father's funeral. I was in the living room, nominally watching television, actually listening to everything through the open doorway. The way teenagers listen to adult conversations they have not been invited to join but understand are about them. Gerald had a folder. He walked my mother through it slowly, in the voice of someone being careful with a person who is fragile. The pension, he explained, was terminated upon my father's death. Military pensions don't automatically transfer to spouses. There is a survivor benefit plan that service members can elect, but David, and here, Gerald paused with what I remember as a very specific regret. A regret that had been rehearsed. David had not elected that plan. It was an oversight. A lot of service members made the same mistake. Are you sure? My mother said. I called the VA directly, Gerald said. I wanted to verify before I said anything. I'm sorry, Carol. I know this isn't what you needed to hear. My mother asked about savings. Gerald explained that there was some. Not much. David had not been a financial planner. The money that was there would need to be managed carefully. He offered to help. He said he would handle the remaining estate paperwork, close out the accounts, make sure everything was properly documented. My mother said thank you. She meant it. She started working double shifts the following month. What Gerald had done before he sat down at that table. 6 days earlier, on November the 29th, 2009, the first VA survivor benefit payment had deposited into an account Gerald had opened in the name of the estate of David Allen Mercer. He was the estate manager. He had the authority on paper to receive estate funds. He had used that authority to open an account my mother didn't know existed and would never see a statement from. $3,200. November 29th, 2009. Gerald had known about the survivor benefit plan for at least 2 years. He was listed as a secondary contact on my father's VA benefits file, a standard family contact entry that my father had made in 2007 during a routine benefits review, without imagining what that contact listing might one day enable. Gerald had known the plan existed. He had known when my father died that the payments would begin. He had positioned himself as estate manager in the weeks before the dining room table conversation. He had opened the account. He had received the first check. And then he had sat down across from my mother and told her it was all gone. Oh, I am going to tell you what the next 11 years looked like. Not in summary, in the specific texture of a life built on a false foundation. Because $1.1 million is a number. What it took from us is not a number. Or my mother worked double shifts for 3 years. Not occasionally, consistently. The kind of sustained overtime that the human body tolerates and then begins to not tolerate. That shows up first in the quality of sleep and then in the small errors of a tired person And then eventually, in the way a person holds themselves when they are always slightly behind where they need to be, she clipped coupons on Sunday mornings. I am not using this as a symbol. She literally clipped coupons with scissors from the newspaper insert at the kitchen table every Sunday while I ate cereal because the difference between the coupon price and the regular price mattered in a way that it would not have mattered if $3,200 had been arriving every month. I got a job at 16 because I understood that the money situation was real and that my contribution was needed. I worked at a diner on Broad Street taking the bus because we had one car and my mother needed it for hospital shifts, coming home at 11 on school nights and doing homework until 1 in the morning because I had decided somewhere around age 15 that my grades were the one thing I could control. They were excellent. They were excellent because I slept 5 hours a night for 2 years. My senior year, the college question arrived. I had done everything right. The grades, the test scores, the extracurriculars built around a diner job and a bus schedule. I had a guidance counselor named Mrs. Patterson who pulled me aside in October and said, "Claire, you should be applying to the best schools you can find." I brought the brochures home. My mother sat with them at the kitchen table. She was quiet for a long time. I want to support this," she said. "I want to, honey, but I have to be honest with you about what I can contribute." "I know," I said. "Gerald says," she started. "I know," I said. "I'll get loans." She looked at the brochures. She looked at her hands. "Your father would have," she started. "Mom," I said. "Listen, it's okay." It was not okay. But she was doing her best, and Gerald had made sure her best was not enough. I took out $67,000 in student loans. I chose my school based on the financial aid package rather than the program, and because the difference in aid between my first choice and my third choice was $14,000 per year, and $14,000 per year times 4 years is $56,000. And I had already done the math before I finished reading the acceptance letters. I chose accounting because I wanted to understand money, not abstractly. Personally, I had grown up in a house where money was described as scarce, and I had never been given a satisfying explanation of why. And I had a specific, grinding curiosity about the mechanism of that scarcity that I had learned over years to recognize as something more than academic interest. I was 18 and I didn't know exactly what I was chasing. I know now. I was chasing the number on the screen, $1.1 million. I was chasing it for 11 years before I knew it existed. Gerald came to my graduation. He sat in the 4th row. He cried, genuinely, or at least functionally convincingly, when I walked across the stage. Afterward, he hugged me. He said, "Your father would be so proud." He said this while receiving a $3,200 deposit into the estate account that my father's pension was still funding. I hugged him back. I said, "Thank you." I had no reason in that moment to do otherwise. My first job out of college was as a junior analyst at Harland & Associates. I was promoted in 18 months. I developed a specialty in estate fraud, the specific category of financial crime that occurs when the person managing an estate uses their position to divert assets from the people the estate was meant to protect. I was good at it, better than good. My colleagues describe me as having an instinct for it, a particular sensitivity to the patterns that indicate something is wrong, the small inconsistencies that are only visible when you know what the normal pattern looks like. I knew what I was looking for. I had been looking at the shape of it my entire life. I just hadn't known until the file landed on my desk that I had been the victim the whole time. What? The assignment came on a Monday morning. Patricia Webb, my supervisor, handed it to me with the specific economy of a woman who manages a full caseload and trusts her team to handle their pieces without extensive briefing. "Manufacturing supply company," she said. "Sole proprietorship, been in business about 15 years. Bank flagged some cash flow irregularities during a loan review. Probably straightforward. 2 weeks, maybe 3. "Name?" I said. "Mercer Industrial Supply," she said. She was already moving. I looked at the cover sheet. Gerald R. Mercer, sole proprietor. Patricia was gone. I sat at my desk. I counted 43 seconds. Then I opened the file. Eek. The business was real. That was the first thing I established, and it mattered because the architecture of what Gerald had done required a legitimate business to run the money through. Mercer Industrial Supply actually supplied industrial components to manufacturing companies. It had actual customers, actual inventory, actual contracts. The business existed and functioned and had for 15 years. But underneath the legitimate business, there was a separate flow, income recorded in the books under a category labeled consulting income, regular, consistent, arriving on the 14th of every month, with no corresponding contracts, no clients, no invoices, no documentation of services rendered. $3,200 every month for 11 years. I stared at that number. $3,200. I knew that number. I did not know immediately, consciously, why I knew it. But my body knew before my mind did. My hands were very still on the keyboard. I pulled the source documentation. The deposits traced to a single external account. The account was registered to the estate of David Allen Mercer. I want to tell you what happened in my body when I read that. Because I have been asked, by colleagues, by my attorney, by the prosecutor's office, whether I was able to remain objective, whether the personal connection compromised the work, whether I should have recused myself the moment I saw the name. I want to be honest about this. For approximately 4 minutes, I was not objective. I sat at the conference room table and I thought about my mother at the kitchen table with scissors and a newspaper insert. I thought about a bus to a diner on school nights. I thought about $67,000 in loans. I thought about Gerald in the fourth row crying. I thought about your father would be so proud. For 4 minutes, I was not a forensic accountant. I was a 16-year-old girl in a living room doorway, listening to a man explain to her grieving mother why the money was gone. Then I picked up my pen. I started documenting because I understood with the specific clarity that comes when something personal and something professional align completely. The most important thing I could do for my mother, for my father's memory, for the 22 years he had served, and the survivor benefit plan he had paid into for 6 years, was to do my job. Precisely, completely, without error. The full picture took 8 days to assemble. I am going to tell you what I found, because the details matter, because each one is a specific choice Gerald made on a specific day, and I want you to understand that this was not a moment of weakness or a single bad decision. This was a plan. November the 29th, 2009. 6 days after my father's funeral, Gerald opened an account in the name of the estate of David Allen Mercer. He was listed as estate manager. The first VA survivor benefit payment deposited that day, $3,200. My father had elected the survivor benefit plan in 2003 during a benefits review before his second deployment. He had paid a percentage of his monthly pension for 6 years to ensure that if he died, the payments would continue for my mother. Gerald had known about the plan since at least 2007 when he was listed as a secondary contact on the VA file. He had never mentioned it to my mother. He had received the first payment before he sat down at her kitchen table. December 5th, 2009. Gerald sat at the kitchen table and told my mother the pension was terminated. He said David had not elected the survivor benefit plan. He said he had called the VA directly to verify. He had not called the VA, or rather, he had called them to confirm the payment schedule, not to report an error, to confirm the deposit dates. December 18th, 2009, Gerald presented my mother with estate paperwork, a stack of documents. He walked her through them quickly. She was 6 weeks out from the funeral. She signed where he told her to sign. One of the documents she signed was a liquidation authorization for my father's thrift savings plan, his military retirement savings account, 18 years of contributions valued at $187,000 at the time of his death. She did not know that was what she was signing. Gerald had described it as a transfer document. She had trusted him. $187,000 liquidated and transferred to Gerald's personal account within 30 days. 2014. 5 years into the scheme, Gerald located a second asset. My father had held a private whole life insurance policy separate from the military benefits, a policy he had opened in 1998 through a civilian insurer. The policy had a cash value of $43,000 at the time of his death. Gerald found it in the estate documentation. He did not tell my mother. He filed a claim. He collected $43,000, 2009 to 2020. 138 monthly deposits, $3,200 each, $441,600 in survivor benefit payments, running through Mercer Industrial Supply as consulting income. Disguised, distributed, recorded, 11 years of the 14th of the month. Total, $441,600. Survivor benefit payments, $187,000. TSP liquidation, $43,000. Insurance policy, $189,400. Interest and investment returns Gerald had generated using the principal, $1,100,000, actually $1.1 million to the dollar. I sat with that number for a long time. Then I called my attorney. Rachel Donovan is 52 years old and has been practicing civil litigation for 25 years and has the specific quality of a person who has seen very bad situations and knows from experience which ones are survivable and which ones require a different kind of strategy. I called her on a Friday evening. I told her what I had found. She was quiet for a moment. "Your uncle," she said. "Yes," I said. "And you found this in the course of a professional audit assignment." "Yes," I said. "Does anyone else know?" "Not yet," I said. "Good," she said. "Keep it that way until we talk. Can you come in tomorrow morning?" I came in at 8. I brought the preliminary file. She read it for 40 minutes while I drank the coffee her assistant brought and tried to stay in the professional register I had been occupying for 8 days and would need to occupy for several more. She looked up. "This is estate fraud, VA benefits fraud, mail fraud, wire fraud, and forgery," she said. "On the signature, do you have a forensic document examiner?" "My colleague Dana," I said. "I haven't asked her yet. I wanted your guidance first." "Ask her," Rachel said. "Get the signature analysis. Then we go to 3 places simultaneously. The VA Office of Inspector General, the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, and we file the civil complaint." "And the bank," I said. "They engaged us for the audit." "You complete the bank's audit and deliver their report," Rachel said, "which will include the findings relevant to their loan decision. Separately, as a private citizen, you take action on the fraud you've uncovered. The 2 processes are independent," I said. "They have to be," she said. "You need to be bulletproof on the professional side. Gerald's attorneys will attack your objectivity the moment they understand your relationship to this. Your professional work needs to be impeccable." "It is," I said. "I know," she said. "That's why we can move." "No, I need to tell you about what happened when I told my mother. Because I had been carrying this for 14 days by the time I sat down with her. And 14 days of carrying something this specific, this complete, this personal. 14 days of seeing the full picture while the person at the center of it went about her life not knowing. That was its own kind of weight. So, I called her on a Saturday morning. I needed to ask her one question before the formal process began. "Mom," I said, "when Gerald had you sign the estate paperwork, do you remember what was in it?" A pause. "Honey, it was so long ago. There were so many documents. He walked me through them." "Did he explain each one specifically?" "Generally," she said. "He said it was standard estate procedure. I couldn't really focus. I signed where he told me to sign." "Mom," I said, "I found something. At work. I need a few more days to complete the documentation, but I need you to hear something right now." "Okay," she said. "Whatever I tell you in a few days, none of it is your fault. I need you to hear that clearly. Nothing you sign, nothing you trusted, nothing you believed. None of it is your fault." The line was quiet. "Is it about Gerald?" she said. I thought about my mother, about the specific intelligence of a woman who has perhaps been almost knowing something for 11 years. Almost knowing it the way you almost know things that are too large to know completely. "Yes," I said. She didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, "How bad?" "Mom, how bad, Claire?" I thought about $1.1 million, about 11 years of the 14th of the month, about scissors and newspaper inserts on Sunday mornings. "Bad," I said. "But it's all documented, every dollar." She was quiet. "Okay," she said. "A few days," I said. "Okay," she said again. And she trusted me, the way she had trusted Gerald. The difference being what the difference always is. I had not timed my first move to coincide with her grief. Dana's report came back on a Tuesday. The signature on the TSP liquidation authorization was consistent with guided signing, the pen pressure and letter formation of someone who was shown where to put their name without being clearly informed of what they were authorizing. Not forged. My mother's hand had held the pen, but not freely given. The signature of a woman in shock, in grief, in the specific vulnerability of someone who has just lost the person they trusted most and is now trusting the next available person without the resources to verify. I added Dana's report to the file. The file went to the VA Office of Inspector General, the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, and Rachel filed the civil complaint on a Monday morning all at the same time before Gerald knew any of it was coming. He was served on a Wednesday. His attorney called Rachel within 90 minutes. I told my mother the full story on a Thursday evening. At the kitchen table, the same table. I brought the file. I walked her through it the way Gerald had walked her through the estate paperwork 11 years earlier, but slowly, completely, explaining every document, waiting for her to signal understanding before moving to the next one. She read everything. She asked 3 questions. The first, he knew about the survivor benefit plan before your father died? Yes, I said. He was listed as a secondary contact. He had access to the benefits file. So when he sat here and told me David hadn't elected the plan, the first payment had cleared 6 days earlier, I said. She looked at the table. The second question, she said. The papers I signed. He knew I didn't understand what I was signing. I thought about the timing. December 18th, 2009. 5 weeks after the funeral. The specific calculation of a man who had chosen his moment. He chose when to come, I said. He chose what to explain and what not to explain. He knew what state you were in. She was quiet for a long time. The third question. Does he know you found it? He was served Wednesday, I said. Something moved through her face. I had expected. I wasn't sure what I had expected. Collapse, maybe. Or the specific eruption of 11 years of compressed rage. What she did was different. She straightened, very slightly, the posture of a person who has been carrying something unbalanced for a long time and has just had it redistributed. How much, she said. $1.1 million, I said. She was very still. With interest, I said. She looked at the number on the summary sheet for a long time. He cried at your graduation, she said. I know, I said. He toasted your father every Thanksgiving. I know. He was so helpful, she said. He was always so helpful. I know, I said. She looked at me. He helped himself, she said. Yes, I said. To everything David left us. Yes. She folded her hands on the table. She looked at the file. I want every dollar back, she said. Yes, I said. And I want him to answer for it, she said. Not just pay it back and walk away. I want him to stand in front of someone and explain it. Rachel is working on it, I said. My mother looked at me. You've been carrying this for 2 weeks. She said, I needed the file to be complete first, I said. And it's complete? Every dollar, I said. Every transaction, every date, documented and filed in 3 places. She looked at me for a long moment. Your father measured twice, she said. Yes, I said. You got that from him, she said. I didn't say anything. She reached across the table. She put her hand over mine. Oh. We sat in the kitchen that had been the same kitchen for 20 years. We didn't need to say anything else. Gerald's attorney requested a settlement conference. Rachel and I agreed on one condition. My mother would be in the room. Philip Ames, Gerald's attorney, 60, controlled, experienced in managing situations that have gone past the point of management, objected. Rachel said, then we'll see you at trial. He agreed. The conference room was on the 14th floor. Different building. Same altitude. Same good light. Gerald came in with Philip Ames and a junior associate who carried the files. Gerald looked at me. He looked at my mother. He looked at the folder in front of me and at Rachel sitting to my left and at the specific arrangement of people in the room that told him before anyone spoke that this was not going to proceed the way he had intended. He sat down. He looked older than at my graduation. The specific aging of someone who has been waiting for a door to open and has now watched it open. Philip Ames opened with a prepared statement about Gerald's contributions to the family over the years, about the complexity of estate management in difficult emotional circumstances, about Gerald's deep remorse and his desire to make things right. My mother listened. She did not look at Philip Ames. She looked at Gerald. When Philip Ames finished, she said, "Gerald?" Gerald looked at her. "David trusted you," she said. "He didn't say anything. He listed you as a contact because he trusted you," she said. "He would have given you money if you'd needed it. You know that. You knew him for 50 years. You knew he would have helped you." Gerald's jaw worked. "Instead," she said, "you sat at my table 6 days after you cashed the first check, and you looked me in the face and you told me it was gone." "Carol," he started. "I was 6 weeks out from his funeral," she said. "I was sleeping 4 hours a night. I could barely read the documents you put in front of me. You chose that moment, specifically. You chose it." Philip Ames said carefully, "Mrs. Mercer, if we could." "I'm not finished," she said. She looked back at Gerald. "I worked double shifts for 3 years," she said. "My daughter took out $67,000 in loans because I couldn't contribute to her education. She chose her school based on financial aid instead of program quality. She clipped coupons with me on Sunday mornings because every dollar mattered." She paused. "Every dollar mattered," she said again. "And you were taking $3,200 a month?" Gerald looked at the table. "She became a forensic accountant," my mother said. "She spent 6 years learning to find hidden money, and then her firm assigned her your audit." She paused. "I want you to think about that. Of every forensic accountant in Columbus, Ohio, the one who found your account was David's daughter, who learned to do this because she grew up in a house where money was always described as scarce, and she needed to understand why." She opened the summary sheet. She put it on the table in front of him. $1.1 million, she said. "I want every dollar. Civil restitution, full amount, plus interest, and I want the criminal process to proceed. Rachel has the documentation. The VA has the documentation. The prosecutor's office has the documentation." Philip Ames leaned forward. "Mrs. Mercer, if we can discuss the criminal referral. My client is prepared to be cooperative, and we believe a plea arrangement that—" "Philip," my mother said. He stopped. "My husband gave 22 years, she said. He paid into the survivor benefit plan for 6 years specifically, so that if he died, I would be protected. He measured twice. He planned for the possibility. He did everything right." She paused. "I want Gerald to stand in a courtroom and explain what he did with what David built. That is not negotiable." She looked back at Gerald. "Is there anything you want to say to me?" she said. Gerald looked at her for a long moment. His attorney put a hand on his arm. Gerald said very quietly, "I'm sorry, Carol." My mother looked at him. She did not say anything. She did not say it's okay because it was not okay. She did not say I forgive you because that was not what this meeting was for. She looked at him the way you look at someone when you have removed every story you were told about them and are seeing only what they actually did. Then she picked up her bag. She stood up. She looked at me. I stood up. We walked out together. Yeah. The civil settlement was finalized in 4 months. Full restitution. $1.1 million, structured payments over 5 years with a lien on Gerald's business assets and personal property to secure the obligation. Mercer Industrial Supply closed. The criminal case took 11 months. Gerald pled guilty to wire fraud, mail fraud, theft of government benefits, and elder financial abuse. He received 4 years with 18 months suspended, 2.5 years in a federal facility in Ohio. He is there now. My mother took a month off work, the first vacation she had taken in 11 years. She went to Savannah to stay with her sister, and she sent me photographs every day. Her sister's garden, the waterfront, a restaurant where she had eaten shrimp and grits, and texted me a photograph of the plate with the message, "Your father would have loved this place." I looked at that text for a long time. I thought about a man on a deck in summer, squinting into the sun, holding a level, measuring twice. He had tried to protect us. He had done everything right. It had taken 11 years, and a bank's routine loan review, and a Monday morning assignment from a supervisor who handed me a file with my last name on it, but the money found its way home. Every dollar, I had made sure of it. Ma, the photograph on my desk is not the military portrait. It is the one from the summer of the deck. my father standing on it, squinting into the sun, holding a level, looking at something off camera with the expression of a man checking his work, measuring twice. That is who he was. That is what he left me. Not the money, though the money is home now where it was always meant to be. The way of seeing, the understanding that the structures we build are only as good as the care we take, that imprecision is always paid eventually, that the trail is always there if you know how to read it. He built us a structure. Gerald found a door in it. I found Gerald. My father measured twice. So did I.